Alrighty guys, another week and essentially another Star Wars movie to talk about because Andor Season 2 is releasing 3 episodes every single week, and we are here to talk about the next chapter in the second season of Andor Season 2, episodes 4 through 6. So, again, this is going to be a spoiler discussion for Andor Season 2, episodes 4 through 6. If you have not seen those episodes, no worries. Just make sure to come back after you have. Or if you don't care about spoilers, then welcome. But this is your spoiler warning for those 3 episodes. And, of course, the first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2 as well. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I just want to give, as always, a little bit of context here before we dive further. I had watched Andor Season 1 when it initially came out, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I recently did a rewatch, and you can go check out that rewatch segment on the podcast where it came out a couple weeks ago. And I really enjoyed it a lot more the second time around. And I think that, the binging model for a show like this is really... I just feel like it's a much better viewing experience. I know that the first season, I think the first 3 episodes came out all at once, but then they kind of staggered the episodes like they usually do on Disney+. But... with this season, they're using the strategy because every single, mini arc or chapter, whatever they're deciding to call it, they encompass 1 year leading up to the events of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So every week we're getting 3 entire episodes, and like I said, it's basically a mini movie that we're getting here every single week. So I watched episodes 1 through 3, and I have to say, I talked about it last week. Go check out my thoughts there. I liked episodes 1 through 3, but I think they were quite uneven, in my opinion. Again, maybe I don't know, maybe I just rewatch Andor immediately, because maybe it's, for me, I just need to rewatch Season 2, just like I did with Season 1, and maybe I'll appreciate it a lot more. But I just think certain parts of the first 3 episodes did not click as well for me as it seemed like they did for other people, but I still saw, obviously, the huge potential in the show that that exists from the first season as well. Just really the potential of the drama, the character work, the dialogue, the way that they're exploring Star Wars. It's really brilliant. It's really awesome. And so I was not discouraged by any means after watching the first 3 episodes. I was not like, oh, this show is gonna suck. It was just more like, enjoyed the first 3 episodes, but let's see where we go from here. So we dive into episodes 4 through 6, and this is going to be, I suppose, maybe they're going to continue on. I think they will actually continue on in the next arcs because they haven't fully resolved, but this is really diving into the Gorman arc of the show. And like I said, I think that there's still a lot of unresolved things at the end of these episodes, but still, this is where the bulk of that is going on. So let's dive into episode 4. I took notes, as always. I'm not going to go super in detail as I usually do because it's 3 entire episodes. It's a whole lot. So let's get into it without further ado. So, I as I was starting out these episodes here, I kind of had the thought that, just based on what we did with Rogue One and what's going on with the show, the kind of tone that they're setting, I feel like, and you see with Bix right away, things are not going well with Bix. She has so much PTSD from that doctor, that bookends the beginning and the end of this little mini chapter here. I just have a bad feeling. I have a very bad feeling that none of the characters that we don't see in Rogue One, including Luthen and Bix and Cinta already dies here, and I don't know about Val. I don't think any of them are going to make it through this show. I feel like, especially if Rogue One had the guts to kill all those characters, I feel like it's just going to be the lesson of this is the price of the rebellion, this is the price of war, and it sucks, but I think we're headed in that direction. We'll see. We will see, but they're on Coruscant now, which is a very interesting twist here. And then we had to Gorman, so that's where we spend the majority of this arc here on Coruscant, on those 2 planets on Gorman and on Coruscant. Cyril is hanging out there talking to his mom on FaceTime, and they're kind of, it's a semblance of normalcy. Even Cyril's mom is like, why are you on Gorman? Turns out that he is stationed there very strategically because of Dedra, and they're trying to basically, because we learned in the last 3 episodes that Gorman is the site of energy that they need for the Death Star, it looks like, and so that's why they're really oppressing the Gormans here, and that's why he's stationed there as well. But we also get some insights into Bix and Cassian. They're in love, and they're trying to live a normal life. Cassian's being very paranoid, but they're going grocery shopping. They're going to dinner. I think it's really nice. It's really it's really lovely. But once we get back to Coruscant, to their apartment, it kind of all comes crashing down. And I think that's one of the things that's really sad about this, but it's so true to life, is that they're fighting a war, right? They're in the middle of a rebellion. how can you have that little happiness, right? How can you enjoy those little moments when there's so much wrong going on out there? And I think that that's a very real part of this show as well. So they're trying to work it out, but again, they're at war. And I love also, though, in all these scenes, how Tony Gilroy is showing us different sides of the Star Wars universe, even Coruscant, just different sides of Coruscant. But, Gorman is different from Aldhani from the previous 3 episodes. Is different from that planet where they were held prisoner. So I really love that is going on as well. On Gorman, though, so we have this whole arc that's being set up here in episode 4, where Cyril is making a big scene. The ISB comes in and sweeps the office, and he's like, "No, I hate when this happens." And he's also going to meet with the Gorman front, right? These rebels on Gorman, and he's gaining their trust is what's going on here. And at first I was kind of thinking, oh, is Cyril, is he kind of turning on the Empire? But I mean, his character is so loyal to the Empire that it's just not in line with who he is, and I think that makes a lot of sense here. As well. We also get a little scene of Lonnie, and Lonnie becomes a very important character in the finale of this little arc here, with Clea especially. But he talks with Luthen. He's getting a little bit more of a role in the Empire, and he's still a spy. He's still a spy. And also, speaking of things going on in Coruscant, Mon Mothma also is trying to pass some bills here in the Senate, and trying to protect the Gormans, because they're all seeing that the Empire is oppressing the Gormans. And look, I mean, she's trying to get votes here, and it sounds silly, right? Because it's about vote getting and it's counting votes. But I've always said this, right? It's not the capital P American politics that I want in Star Wars or anything, like no Democrat, Republican, whatever. But it's politics, right? Politics in Star Wars, I think, is fascinating, and I love this stuff. I watched Conclave recently, which is unfortunately very timely with the passing of the Pope recently, but watch Conclave during the Oscar season. I love Conclave, and Conclave was a movie about counting votes, and I thought it was fascinating. So I think all this stuff that's going on with Mon Mothma, I think it's so fun. Like, this is the best part of Star Wars to me, at least in this sort of scale, because of course I love the lightsabers and the Jedi and whatnot, but on this side of Star Wars, I think that it's really, really great here. And I think that's awesome. So yeah, but they're also, so that's going on here, and then I think Luthen is trying to figure out what Daedra and Cyril are doing on Gorman. It's obviously for the Death Star. This episode I really was on board with. It was setting up something really fun with the politics. It was also setting up the conflict on Gorman. They know the Empire is building something. They also talk about the fact that so again, Luthen sends Cassian to Gorman because he's like, I need you to figure this out, see what's going on here. Little does Cassian know that Val and Cinta are already there, and they're already on board with all this stuff that's going on here. Also crazy that Tarkin, basically, it's revealed in the next episode, I think, but he killed 500 Gorman 16 years ago. He basically landed a cruiser on the entire an entire crowd of Gormans, and it's really, that's crazy. That just shows you the brutality of the Empire here. We end this episode here. We end the episode with Saw a little bit, and Saw is going to go wild in the next episode. But we'll get to that in just a second. And we also end the episode with another nice moment between Andor and Bix. But Bix, she's not doing well. She's taking this sort of sleeping drug, and yeah, I mean, it just, the characters are not doing well. But we're setting up a lot of intrigue here as we get into episode number 5. Episode number 5. I've always said this, and I was hoping that this wouldn't be the case, and I don't think it is the case here necessarily, but these middle episodes are a little bit, there's a little less to talk about, because they're just sort of not in a bad way, just sort of a continuation of what's been going on previously. So there's not as much to talk about here in episode 5, but still a lot of interesting stuff going on here. The Empire is trying to remove those bugs from Cyril's office, like we talked about, and he's making a big scene about it. There's all of that. And Clea is also, so then we're setting up another mini arc here with Clea, who is Luthen's assistant, and she's basically, she's finding out the fact that there's a bug, that they planted a bug on one of the art installation pieces, and they're going to get found out, basically. And so that's going to be her big arc in episode 6 as well. Luthen goes to visit Bix. He's like, yep, you're not doing well, not great. And yeah, she's not doing great. Cyril, and meanwhile, he's being he's being a great double agent in terms of serving the Empire, and he's And he reports back to Coruscant, and they're like, "Great job, Cyril." And he also eats cereal with his mom. Also, there's "Good Morning Coruscant." That's crazy. That was a little bit too much for me. I don't know. I could have done without that. To be quite honest with you, I think that was a little bit on the nose. But I digress here. But yeah, I mean, so they have this whole plan. The Empire does, the ISB does, set up where they want the Gormans to get a win, so then they can crush them afterwards. It's just. That's really cruel. It's conniving, it's wicked, and it's really cruel, and that is the Empire at its quote unquote best. And it's crazy what they're able to do here. But then, like I said, there's not a whole lot to talk about episode 5. I want to get to episode 6 here. We end though with Saw. So there's this thing going on here where he's trying to extract something. Like, I don't know if it's fuel. I wasn't honestly entirely sure what was going on here, but he's just at the end of this episode inhaling some kind of toxic gas or something. Which, if you remember in Rogue One, I mean, he was on, no pun intended, he was on fumes. He was, literally sucking in oxygen or doing something. He was not in good shape in Rogue One. So this is, I suppose, what he's doing. I don't know why. Honestly, if you guys have more insight into this, again, I've just seen these episodes once. I just saw them, and I'm just giving my immediate reactions. But yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff going on over there as well. So we head into episode 6, and episode 6, here we go. Luthen and Cassian meet up here, and Luthen's like, all right, well, he tells Cassian, we don't need the Gormans, but I think what he's setting up there is the fact that Val and Cinta are already there, so it doesn't necessarily matter that Cassian is not on board for that. But Luthen telling Cassian basically he's got to pull it together. He and Bix have got to pull it together. It's Luthen being like, I've given up everything. I know I'm not the nicest person here, but again, it's all for the rebellion, and I've given up my humanity, and you're just gonna have to deal with it, and that's what's going on with Luthen. So, also some more references here to Dr. Gorst. Basically, they're gonna set up an entire program with this mind bending, the crazy thing that made Bix go insane. That they're gonna set it up here, and that pays off at the very end of this episode here. But we cut back to Dedra, and there's a reminder here that Cyril, even though he's on Gorman and he knows that there's some plan going on with the Gormans, doesn't know what this is actually for, that it's for the Death Star. And I think that that's going to be an interesting revelation. I'm sure he's going to find out at some point. Maybe not. But yeah, we'll see about that. So meanwhile, Cassian is off of Gorman, and Val and Cinta are basically in charge of all of this at this point here. And it's sort of a mini Aldhani arc, right? It's a mini Aldhani arc going on here, where they sort of have this little heist thing that's going on, which I think is fun. I think it's a cool thing to have here, but I guess you have less time to get invested in all of it because it just doesn't, you didn't have all the episodes preceding it. I mean, you did, but for Aldhani, basically the entire 3 episodes they were planning the heist, and this is sort of just like a truncated version of that, but still. And meanwhile, in Coruscant, the other thing that's going on here is the party. There's this party going on here, and Krennic shows up, which is quite scary, and Bail Organa cameo. Was that Jimmy Smits? You'll have to let me know in the comments. I wasn't sure. He just kind of came in and out of the scene very, very quickly here. But basically, the most tense part of this entire episode to me was that scene where Clea was trying to get that listening device out of that artifact. That was literally the most intense thing of this entire episode. It was crazy how well they edited that back and forth. Like, literally 5 seconds you see her just kind of trying to twist the device out of the of the artifact, and it would just cut back to the stuff on Gorman, and then would cut back to her. It was so tense, and they won. I love the ending where she and Luthen are just laughing about it, because it's crazy. I thought she was gonna die. I thought something was gonna happen, and they got it out. And I don't think I can't imagine that they're gonna get away with it scot-free. I have to imagine something's gonna happen. But I mean, a year passes, right? A year is gonna pass before the next 3 episodes, so we'll see. But meanwhile, in Gorman, it's something goes awry, and Cinta is killed, and Val just completely goes off on that guy, the Gorman who does that, and it's really sad. That's really, it's kind of a scary scene there. So we end the episode here, and Bix and Cassian go rogue, and they blow up a bunch of stuff with the Empire. And you have to know that Luthen is not going to be happy about that, unless Luthen sanctioned this, but I just can't imagine that that's what happened there. So yeah, guys, that's where we end this episode, these arcs, this little mini arc rather. And I I really enjoyed it. I really did. I thought that this was more of what I was hoping and expecting from Andor. I think that, again, not that I didn't like the first 3 episodes, but the first 3 episodes just sort of felt like they were a little uneven, and this felt like it focused up big time. And I love also that, it's a mini arc within itself, these 3 episodes, but it also is continuing a lot of the same strands from the first 3 episodes as well, about the Gormans with Krennic, the stuff about Luthen, Cassian, Bix, like all that kind of stuff is carrying over. So it's not like it's completely separated, and I really, really enjoy that. The politics, like I said in these episodes, I enjoyed so much. I think that was so well done here. The intrigue, just the fact that taking out a listening device from an artifact was the most tense thing in this entire show so far, I think is huge. Huge props to the way that they edited and filmed these scenes. So guys, those were my thoughts on these 3 episodes. I really enjoyed a lot of the stuff that was going on here. Had a lot of questions still. I think we're going to see the Death Star. That's say that really fast. The Death Star, we're going to see that very soon. And I think that the Gorman, we're going to see a lot of pain cost to the Gormans in a little bit. And I'm not excited about that, because that's gonna be painful to watch there. And we'll see where K2SO shows up. I'm betting that it's gonna be in the next arc, because I can't imagine that it's just gonna be for the final couple episodes. I would hope not. We'll have to see about that. Guys, what did you think about episodes 4 through 6 of Andor Season 2? Let me know in the comments down below.